very good morning to all the dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. Thank you to Business World for the summit. We've had a good number of thoughts in the first session of keynote speakers. We now come to a very specific session, which is about digital transformation and learning, its impact, and the future of learning. We have four very distinguished panel members who have excellent experience in their area of work, very senior, and what I would try to do is to draw from their experience on this particular topic. To introduce the topic, I'd also be happy to state where I'm coming from. It's about 10 years of entrepreneurship to begin with, and that had technology in it, technology-enabled learning in it, and that was followed by 2 stints of intrapreneurship in a group like ICFAI. One was with campus-based learning, about 170 odd campuses across the country in management education, and the second is in fully online MBA program, which we launched about 2.5 years back. So this, it's from that experience that I am trying to come from, but what I'd like to do is to construct from each of your individual experiences. So we set the tone, and let me just start from what our seniors have spoken earlier. So some of those things are, first is, the last IIIT-H survey said 27 change percentage is the gross enrollment ratio, and we want to move to 50%. Now you know that as you go forward, every percentage is, on numbers may look okay, but on quality there are big question marks. So we'll have to figure that out. That is one. Second is, we've got the national education policy, and we need to see how we can incorporate the directions of that. The third is the point about the demographic window and the fact that we may have perhaps 2.5 to 3 decades just to go. And the last is about outcome-based education. So these are some of the points that we're trying to draw on. Now NPTEL was launched in 2003 and SWAYAM in 2017. So what I'd try to do is, I'm coming straight to the point, and this is the opening hypothesis or a problem definition. So I'd request that the slide we put up, there was a slide which was shared. The slide we put up, these are outcomes of what SWAYAM has achieved, including, that includes the NPTEL experience also, what SWAYAM has achieved over the years. And these figures will set the stage for some of the questions that we have. Technology enabled learning, digital transformation, a lot has been said about it. Now, what are the practical issues which come up in that is what we are going to look at. So if it's going to take time, shall I go ahead with? Before the slide comes up, I'll just introduce you to some of the key data points. And this, if you go to the SWAYAM website, it's up there before you. There you are. So I've taken out all the important national coordinators. There are 2 in the school level which I have not taken out. All the other national coordinators are there. So you've got IIM Bangalore for management, you've got AICTE for all those programs, including foreign universities that are not part of all the other national coordinators. You've got NPTEL essentially for technology. Then you've got the NIITR, which is technical teacher training. So in fact, a lot of what teachers in technical education should learn is there. There's something there. Then you've got the UGC itself being a national coordinator, and then you've got the undergraduate done by the Consortium for Educational Communication. So this data is up there on the website for anyone who cares to look at it. What does the data say? There's nothing very wrong with enrollment per course. There are a large number of courses. In fact, content is not a problem. And if you look at the professor names, they are distinguished professors. There's nothing wrong there. So enrollment per course, it's popular or it's moderately popular, but it is there. Now these figures are cumulative to date, for your information. These are cumulative to date. 4,700 is not a bad figure. Now if you look at the examination registration figures, you'll find that there is a problem. That means from the time that the student has enrolled into the examination registration time, you will find that in management it is 1.9%, and the highest out there is NPTEL at 13.9%, which is still very low. So if there are 100 people who are taking NPTEL courses, only 14 are registering for the exams. The next data point is those who qualify based on examination registration. Here too you will find that except for AICT and NPTEL, where the figures are pretty low based on examination, the others are okay. For online learning, that's fine. I mean, to begin with, it's okay, and some are beginning to look good. The alarming point is the final one, which is enrollment outcome percentage on the certification. Now that figure is, you can see it's ranging between 1.02 in management, an area from which I come from, to NPTEL 7.4%, which is still low. Now when we say outcome-based education, we say digital transformation, SWAYAM is the national representative of a very large state-supported initiative, center-supported initiative, where lots of resources have got deployed, and yet we can see from the outcomes that there is something that we need to do. So this is you can see the research problem out here, and you can have a lot of PhDs around each of them. The figure is clear. Now before we come to the questions, I'd also invite each of our panel members to express their opening introductory remarks, and then we will examine the question. Narayan sir.
Thank you, Prasad, and thank you for the organizers for inviting me. I'm being the director of IIIT-H. There's an enlightened group of people, the governing council, that controls every aspect of it, including appointing its chairperson, appointing its members, and the vice chancellor or director based on the UGC. We are a deemed university, so we also follow the UGC now. So it was set up with a high research intensity in mind. So our teaching is always at the level of, we want our teaching, the research-based curriculum we follow for practically every course. Every course will have things like assignments and projects and term papers, etc. But the point is, the teachers are also top-class researchers, or we want to be, because each course, the sense that the student gets is the last page of the textbook is not the last word in the subject. It's just a window into the subject you have got. You move outside, the sky is up there, and that motivation to pursue that further, that should be the thing that we impart to the student. Now the digital transformation and other things that have come recently, yes, there are fantastic resources available out there, but it's all ultimately the outcome or the impact is based on the intensity or the deep passion that individual students have. I mean, in today's digital resources available is probably an extension of textbook that were always been available. So it's not very, at least in the recent times, in the last 20, 30 years, has never deterred anyone who is motivated to actually learning. Maybe 50 years ago, 70 years ago, our parents' times, etc., they really had to struggle, and they had ultra motivation, photocopy textbooks from somewhere else, etc. Today, we are living in a reasonably comfortable world. There are libraries, universities have libraries, so access to textbooks or access to internet today is not by itself an impediment, which means you can have all the best content, but unless you have the true motivation, unless you motivate the student to use it, it's not going to be far more effective. Okay? And these numbers that you put up there is showing that the 4,000 or 5,000 registrations per course is an aspiration, but unless you have true motivation and spend time at it, it's not going to be any more effective than textbooks or whatever other resources. But on the other hand, for those who are motivated, these are extremely good resources, because these are not just textbooks. First, textbooks are static information. Here it is videos and sometimes interactive, and often by the best people, and often multiple videos. You go to NPTEL or SWAYAM, you find the same course. You take machine learning, you take whatever course you want, fluid mechanics. there will be 5 courses by 5 different experts. So I mean, that kind of access is very good, and they work very well for the motivated people. And I think the experience of, at least early experience of the Coursera and edX also was that professionals working in industry, when they take this course, they do it not to just put something more in their resume. They do it because they need it. So when they need it, this resource availability, synchronous, asynchronous, helps a lot. And the completion rate among them is higher than the broad completion rate. So again, even in our colleges, you have to motivate the students. Earlier, it was said that teacher should be at the center. Yes, teacher, that's not the browser, right? Browser is not the teacher. They should be, it's someone who is motivating, and the students get the right message on that they should be trying to be not just getting a job, but understanding the subject, mastery of the subject in some way. Jobs will follow. If you don't have mastery, whatever jobs will not last. If you try for mastery, jobs will obviously come. So that message should be given to the student. They should be motivated. Then all these resources become useful. Otherwise, they are just another, some more stuff that is available out there, easily accessible, but not benefiting the society as much. I will stop here. Thank you.
At the outset, thank you so much, organizers and all the faculty, academy who are here to listen to the views and give their suggestions. I come from Great Lakes Institute of Management. We have been a very, very innovative business school, and we tried to capture the tide of IT industry. A large number of IT people, after 3-4 years time, they find themselves slightly redundant within it. There is a huge competition from younger generation. So we used that, then we moved into energy, and then we used into big data. And we are amongst the leading institutions in the area of artificial intelligence and machine learning. My role has been in this institution to create more joy in learning. I'm coming abruptly to it. The idea is, I always believe that there is a very large supply of education resources. If we look at the NIRF rankings, the total teaching learning resources are excellent. A large amount of that is being reported. But it has always been challenged in all kind of institutions to get the attention of the student, to make them do quality work, keep them enthusiastic about outputs. And their desires are a lot. So when we talk about demand here, this demand for education is to be treated very differently to demand for whatever analysis we've been doing for products, services, other things. This is very different. Because it is not just the ability to buy, it is not just the willingness to buy. Because banks are there to provide you the ability to buy. Willingness to buy, yes, each one of them wants to have a degree. But then willingness to buy here has to be substituted with willingness to put in that effort, which we all find very difficult, and it is rational. I think the most difficult thing in this world is to learn, to skill, to get education. So it will not happen in abundance. There will have to be a lot of effort which is going in. Now we are very much into the space of digital transformation. We are using it to a very large extent. And in general, society is also consuming a lot of digital content. While coming from my hotel to here, I've been consuming certain amount of digital education. Last evening we were discussing through email, we discussed certain points about what do we have to do on this. A quick research on variety of things we did before we came here. This is all digital transformation. But the numbers here, 1% outcomes, we shouldn't be too pessimistic about it. A large amount of consumption of digital education may not be actually contributing to degrees earned. And I think that's not going to be the objective also. Second, before I would not want to take too much of time, two things I wanted to bring here. One is the gap of demand and supply. The other thing which I wanted to do was, when the government is providing all these resources, when the government says that we need to increase the gross enrollment ratio, this is a macro aspect. Individual learning is a micro aspect. Micro and macro aspects often conflict with each other. So what is being provided to provide this utility at the micro level? This is what we need to discuss and deliberate upon. I think I'll stop here for some time and then.
Thank you. I'd invite Murthy sir.
Good morning, everyone. At the outset, I would like to compliment Business World and Telangana State Council of Higher Education for thinking about this one-day program on higher education. We have seen very bad days during Corona. In fact, digital transformation is the necessity, but the way we used it, some of the institutions, in some other places it was diluted, and the industry was actually suspecting whether you are coming from that Corona batch, the education. So the marks obtained during that stage, you take any education, primary, intermediate, graduation, post-graduation, every level. That particular period, unfortunately, though we could manage the academic years to complete the syllabus, to complete the examinations, and to see that the student is not losing the academic year. But unfortunately, the true quality of input could not be given. And industry has realized that, and also has that stigma continues. But nevertheless, it has taught us lessons, the way we have to teach in the classrooms. It is a hybrid mode of learning now, no more. If you are not accepting that, you are falling behind. So we have to have a proper mix of physical as well as virtual inputs in the classroom. And we are able to get the best of the inputs to the classroom because a foreign professor need not travel. He can actually take a full course or a half course to the student, and students have the benefit of listening to the faculty. So we have to have a proper mix of both virtual as well as physical inputs in the classroom. As Professor B.J. Rao was telling in the morning, the teacher is the main person who can motivate the student. In outcome-based education and also the NEP 2020, we are looking at students who are coming out with skill set. If you are able to provide the skill set, certainly education will be valuable and will be valued by the industry participants. Industry has always been complaining that we are getting more and more graduates, but not employable graduates. Again, they have to spend time on training of the students for another 6 months or 3 months. So if we provide in the classrooms the right mix of education, and not only the skills but also the values, certainly they will be ready to take up the positions there. And of course, at IPE, I am the director at the Institute of Public Enterprise. I joined IPE in 1994. IPE was started in the year 1964. From the beginning, IPE has 4 important activities: teaching, training, research, and consultancy. Our faculty, whatever consultancy they do, they take to the classroom as case study, a real life case study. That makes students more interesting and participating. And we give assignments in such a way that certainly they have to go to the Bloomberg terminal and they have to collect the data, analyze the data and provide. And we give assignment in such a way that they have to necessarily use the EBSCO and other digital sources available in the library, and they come out with study based on research and also the data available. So unless we make the students compulsorily visit these digital resources, we cannot really get the best out of these digital resources, and digital transformation is not complete. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Ramakrishna.
Thank you. My gratitude to the organizers for organizing this excellent event. And I'll just add on to some of the excellent points that our esteemed panelists have made. By the way, I'm from Mahindra University. I'm the Dean of the School of Management. So what we have learned in the Corona period, in the pandemic, are the possibilities of online education, but also the limitations. My colleague just spoke about the gap, the learning gap that we observed in the Corona batch of students who were not able to learn as effectively as their predecessors because the entire learning was constrained to online education. Now what this tells us, what we are beginning to realize or beginning to appreciate, is how much of a social process learning is. Learning is a very social process. The face-to-face interaction between faculty and student is extraordinarily important. We all know from our own experiences as students and from our experiences as educators that when a professor or teacher takes an interest in a student's learning, that student may be a laggard. But we have seen how often the attitude, the passion, the intensity that other panelists spoke about of the student is enhanced. So listening to a recorded lecture is not the same as having a teacher in front of you taking an active interest in your learning and showing a concern for your, not just for your course, the outcome of your course, but for your future as an individual. The other very important thing, of course, is that in a classroom, students are interacting with each other and learning from each other. So that's another thing that we should not forget. So I think we have begun to realize the limitations of purely online education. Resources like Swayam are extraordinarily important. There's no question about that, because they take high quality content and high quality delivery to the remotest parts of the country and to individuals who, coming from low income families, would never be able to afford an education of that quality. But we have seen that the completion rates, as that slide excellently summarizes, are very, very low. By the way, this is true internationally also. At Coursera, the free courses have a completion rate of roughly less than 15%, 1.5. The paid courses have a higher completion rate of approximately 50. And that means that the very serious students are selecting into those courses. If they are willing to pay, they are selecting into those courses. And finally, the corporate courses are the ones that have the highest completion rates, because not only is the company paying for the employee, but perhaps the HR department is tracking which of the employees are completing the course and which are not, and that may contribute to their promotions and increments and so on. So I think we should definitely leverage online education and digital education, but not view it as a substitute for the classroom. Online education can never substitute a teacher. We should think in the future about online education complementing face-to-face education. What are the ways in which it can complement face-to-face education? What are the use cases where online education can step in, where a face-to-face interaction between students and faculty is not possible? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ramakrishna. We had some good opening remarks. One major issue is about motivation of students, how to get them to be motivated and keep their attention on the learning process. The learning process being more important than just the content or even just the teaching process, the learning process. Then the issue that we had about the quality during COVID, that the experience was not as good as it was in the campus. And the highlights about learning being a social process, very true. As well as how digital transformation can be used to complement education, regular education, campus education, and bring better outcomes. I think we have a paucity of time, so what I would be doing is, I would be combining the questions and then I would request each member to respond to that. There are some questions which are there in the mind. Now, if you put all those numbers together, I have not put the numbers, but it's close to about 35 lakhs of enrollment through SWAYAM, including all these 7 national coordinators. Not 35 lakhs, it's 3.75 crores. And out of that, 2 point change is NPTEL alone. So that shows the dominance of technology-oriented education. Now, if you look at that figure is very near to what the higher education system, which is about 4 crores, the official higher education system accommodates. And this is in very early days, which means that there is some sort of interest which is going towards that. Perhaps as one of my colleagues said, co-panelists said, that people are not using it just to get certification, but perhaps they're also using it to consume content maybe for their mainline education or something else. So there could be a lot of usages for that. Now, if we need to look at the national objectives, in the budget speech there was the National Digital University which was reported. It was supposed to be launched somewhere in July 2023. It has not yet been launched. Now, if we need to, as panel members, we need to advise, give suggestions to how this can be improved. Because I'm sure the UGC is also looking at it very closely, the Ministry of HRD is looking at it closely, and each institution has been asked to keep reporting how much of that 40%, how much of SWAYAM is being consumed by the student, how much of credit transfer you have done. Dr. Mahindra referred to it in his speech. So the use of such programs even in campus education is also there. But be that as it may, the issues still come out. The issues are that from level to level there are different levels of engagement. And perhaps I would use that word engagement, student engagement, to come back to majority of these points, from motivation to quality, etc., etc. Now, if some of the points that we were to mention were to be taken by the Ministry of HRD, that is the first question. So what in each of those levels, from admission to finally the outcome, if we need to offer suggestions for each stages, what would those suggestions be? Are there any issues that you see? That is one thing. The second question that I'd like to pose is our individual experiences. That means that we have succeeded somewhere and we found that there is a spark of light when it comes to digital transformation. So can we elaborate on one or two use cases in the way that we have done things at our institution, which could help overall both for all types of education, whether it is campus or online or hybrid or whichever way it is. So these are two questions. I'll club it together and put it across to each panelist for their responses. Dr. Narayanan.
I don't think I have any concrete suggestion to make this the online or the SWAYAM kind of courses work better. The concept of, say, digital university and all that, the problem is somehow in this country we think of education as that final degree certificate, because employers demand it, government will completely require base things only on that. Whether the learning is not there or not, the certificate has to be there. Companies are slightly better, they know how to look for learning rather than just a certificate. So once you reduce everything to a certificate, you think that a university is nothing more than the courses and the grades. But we are finding in all these attempts, online education or digital university, etc., is that university is far more than the subjects. And we only, so in the first round also, we only talked about, one person mentioned that, we only talked about these teachers being far more effective than computer as an education. But I think what we should also not forget that in the overall education, done in a university or a college, the inter-student interactions are equally important or probably more important. In fact, the old saying in Sanskrit is Acharyat Padamadate. 1/4 is given by teachers, 1/4 by classmates, 1/4 by you learn by yourself, and the last 1/4 you get only with life experience. Okay? So in the biggest, one of the biggest points about maybe online education, COVID time was not succeeding as much is probably they don't have their peers to talk to. In fact, they probably learn from each other much better than they learn from the best of teachers, because they think alike, their wavelengths are alike, and there is a little bit more competition. When they say, oh, he has got it, why am I not getting it? Okay, so that all these multiple factors. So the social aspect of education is completely missing in an online education, as well as in, say, attempts like digital university. And that's why they will always remain, second class or secondary in nature. And yes, these courses are very good material. And maybe another way of looking at it, like he said, that 1%, we should not despair about it, because maybe the courses were taken by people who are looking for a specific knowledge, specific aspect, somebody working, and they got it, and they don't bother to get the certificate because there's different stage in life. So that fact that course exists and they are getting used, and I'm told NPTEL is actually the actual formal courseware, these are the outcome. But as those, the whole thing is available on YouTube. And the clientele or the subscribers from outside India is very large. In fact, I'm told in Brazil, this NPTEL courses, or maybe Swayam, all the other courses from India are very, very popular. And I've seen, I've not done a lot of research on it, but when I looked at it, there are several courses where there are a lot of comments in the YouTube comments from Brazil or other places like that. Because these are English language courses, but taught by very competent people, available for free. And in that sense, it's much richer than all the Coursera's and edX put together. Okay, maybe they are by MIT and there's that value, but the breadth and depth that we have, and for good or bad, our courses, the NPTEL courses are standard like 30 or 40 hour courses for 4 credit, whereas most of the others are shorter courses. You can say good things and bad things about it, but for those who are motivated, whether you're sitting in Brazil or Venezuela or Africa, this is a great resource. So I don't think we should give it more responsibility. This digital courseware, we should not expect more from it. We should not be disappointed by its this kind of performance also. We should continue to build it. There are people using it. If 100 people benefit in a year, I think the effort is worth it. That's what I would say.
I totally agree with your viewpoints that we should continue to build it. Because as Professor Ramakrishna also mentioned, that it is not to be seen as a standalone project, it has to be blending with the mainstream education that is happening. So the infrastructure should continue to be built, and users will keep on joining or exiting as per their requirements. And this we've seen in our for instance, we run a business school. There are a certain number of courses that can be taught in a particular term, but when the placement companies come, they are expecting that the students know everything about a particular concept. We have a 1-year program running. We take admissions in July, the course starts in July, and the placement companies come in September. Looking at the course curriculum, they may ask questions from what was slated to come in the 6th term. Whereas the interview is happening when they are in the 2nd term or in the 3rd term. What do? We cannot teach all that because we are regulated by IICT. We cannot bring all those things here. There has to be a schema. So students register themselves online on so many such digital content, and they are able to gather. Of course, all that knowledge then comes into the classroom discussion also, and the faculty is able to answer those questions whenever it is possible, and the learning happens. So most important thing here is, once again I am coming to, where is that craving which was initially also brought in? Are we able to trigger certain amount of demand from the students? So we experimented at Great Lakes that right at the beginning, for the 2-year program also, MBA program, right at the beginning, we're going to give them the job descriptions of the summer internships that had come to the institute. And we said, you prepare a CV You prepare your introduction so that the company is interested in your profile. And then the students realize that all of them have almost the same thing to say. So July they start with the course, September onwards, summer internship companies start coming in and they've got to talk about, they've got to differentiate, they've got to display what content they have. How much can an institution give? Not much. So that is where again the supplement from digital content is coming in. When that craving starts happening, if I want to apply in Infosys for this kind of a thing, or if I want to go to KPMG and in summer internship they are going to ask me to prepare a dashboard. Do I know how to prepare a dashboard? Web and social media analytics will come in the fourth term, but its applications, its knowledge would be required in the summer internship itself before the fourth term. The institutions, academic institutions will get overwhelmed with this kind of a responsibility if they have. The people will have to share this. And that is what we try to do. We generate, it has been mentioned in the earlier, we also trigger this craving for people to learn. And that is happening. So I am really not very discouraged with this 1%, 2% outcome that we are seeing. There has to be a difference between how do we evaluate outcomes for a private company and the government. Government has to, by nature, create huge amount of redundancy. And that's what this government is doing. But if they start, something that I do not agree with is that forcing people to go to these things, that I think they should leave it to the market. Forcing education always creates evasion. It is the motivation that needs to be built in, and that's how I would like to conclude for the time.
Thank you, sir.
The figures given for enrollment for online education, if you look into those things, first of all, if you look into the demand for online education, where is it coming from? One is one segment who are working in industry, people who joined with the graduate degree long back. They have got a lot of domain experience, but unfortunately when they want to move out or get promotions, they don't have the management qualification. So all such categories of people are applying for online education, online MBA. So there are some people who do serious work and they try to get updated in the knowledge. But there are also some universities, they offer online MBA where object type of questions and all. Literally they don't learn anything in the process. Their copying take place and all. They don't get any knowledge as such. And also one of the reasons why corporate sector or the people who are working, they went for online education because the physical way of education, there were some constraints. Suppose there is a 2-year degree, postgraduate degree. If anybody completes 1 year because of some reason, they have to discontinue the second year. Whatever time he has spent in first year resources, everything goes waste. But fortunately in the NEP 2020, the flexibility is available now. So even if you spend 1 year, for that you are getting a certificate. Second year you get a diploma. Third year you get a degree. Fourth year honors. So education has become more flexible now and more multidisciplinary. And through that I think we can make full-time education also more fertile, more productive, more efficient. While the corporate sector demand will be there for such courses, but how to make the full-time students make use of online education is the challenge. So that should become part of the pedagogy, part of evaluation, use of online resources, online based assignment, and necessarily that the demand for online resources will go up. So industry people are looking for more structured programs, more flexible programs. From the beginning, we have institutions like IGNO or Ambedkar University. They were depending on distance education courses, but now online is the way of life. Many B schools, many institutions have started online education. The beauty of online learning is that the flexibility that offers to the people. But that actually drives the online education is the passion for knowing something new, something updated knowledge that are available, the skills that are available, best practices that are available. So if people have the passion to know the best practices, certainly online is the best source because we are able to know what is happening across the globe now. So that is actually the solution for online education becoming more and more demand and students also getting benefited through online education.
Thank you, sir. I think you've raised some important issues. One is about the demand for online for continuing education that people will need apart from their mainline education. And the second is the issue about the quality of evaluation, that is, you put some MCQs across and then, you have high pass rates and that kind of thing will not work. Yes, absolutely will not work because we can't go down the lane of how distance education went where, it finally became just a certificate. So thank you for highlighting these points. Dr. Ramakrishna.
So you asked for some suggestions to the policymakers. So I think two suggestions maybe. One is that create a level playing field between government-backed institutions and private institutions. I'll just give you an example. When the IIM Act was passed, the IIMs, both the older ones and the new ones, some of which didn't have even a campus, their own campus, or didn't have a full-fledged faculty at that time, were empowered to give MBA degrees. These are standalone institutes that are not part of a university. But older ones, such as XLRI or SPJN Institute of Management Research, that had been around for decades and delivering excellent quality of education, were not given that same privilege. So the first thing is to, whether it's in online education or education in general, that there should be a level playing field between the government-backed institutions and the private institutions, because it is the private institutions that will bring in the innovations. The second thing is, with online education, we need to do away with some of the regulatory uncertainty that we are faced with. I believe recently there was a Supreme Court verdict that said that private state-sanctioned universities are not allowed to deliver their education outside their states. Now, you'll agree with me that in the context of online education or digital education, this is a meaningless situation. This is a meaningless criterion, right? We've seen, as my co-panelist was saying, that the NPTEL courses are being consumed in Brazil and in Africa. So we need, sometimes the regulation is behind the technology. And I think especially when it comes to education, we need to ensure that our regulations actually are keeping pace with the pace at which technology is developing. I'm a very firm believer in markets. I'm a very firm believer in local experimentation. It's great that the government is creating these platforms. I think we've seen from UPI and how successful that can be, and hopefully ONDC can be successful also. Swayam has the hallmarks of becoming a successful platform, but it would be great if that can be opened up to private institutions also. And private institutions should also be allowed to deliver online education on their own. And you will see lots of experimentation. There will be successes and failures, but then we'll all learn from each other, and that's how progress is made. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very interesting points about the level playing field. I think the culture in our country is such that it's always that the public institution is looked at as being more transparent, genuine. I mean, rightly so for many reasons, and perhaps there are other reasons also. And private institutions are suspiciously looked at. But then innovations come from, a lot of innovations will come from private institutions. So I've refrained from making a use case of what we have tried to do, because we wanted to draw out what the suggestions are. But now I'll try to build it up with that use case. We have about close to 600 odd students that we have enrolled for the fully online MBA program. Now, right from the beginning, the issue for us was design, and this design was supposed to take care of motivation. Is the student engaging? What is the student profile? What is the student's career theme when they join us? Are we able to add to that career theme through project-based learning. And what we have found is that this sort of an approach is very helpful in terms of progression. It takes time. Today, online education, the fee and the pricing is very low. If you really want to involve faculty members and make the faculty the center, which is the right thing to do, the teacher at the center of learning, then as we go along, the amount of facilitation that the teacher will need to do both on design as well as education will increase, because these are meant to be large scale kind of things. So what we have found is that when the moment you personalize learning, that means if based on student profiles, you look at categories of students. A lot of online students have other responsibilities, that's why they come into online. It's not as if they are there full time. So if you are able to personalize the education and then offer them ways of engagement which are more suitable to their background. Sometimes it may not be recorded videos, it may be something else. If you are able to identify this, if you are able to bring in learning analytics, if you are able to connect these two and build it into learning outcomes and monitor it very closely, which also needs the use of technology, then the progression rates are good. We have good progression rates. It is in the range of 70 to 80% per semester for the fully online. But it has taken us a lot of effort, and it's not as if, it is not that videos are loaded and then they are just left like that. A variety of content, it's not just videos. And you need to have a variety because learning styles are very different. And you should be able to counsel, and the teacher, and this is the teacher's job. The teacher will need to counsel based on the learning style and category that students come from. And broadly, there are some personas of students who come in. So it's very much possible, but today's system, which is being looked up to, and SWAYAM is one of them, is where the interaction levels are very low. So I think from one of the suggestions that you have given, one recommendation is about the level of interaction. The other is how is the teacher the center, is somewhere in the center. Because the teacher is at a distance with recorded videos. How do you get it in? The third is how do you build in peer learning? Today there is hardly any peer learning going on in online programs. So these are some of the suggestions that have come in. How do you make it a social learning process? How do you bring in app-based, kind of cohort-based kind of learning? All these together go into making better outcome rates, even though it may not lead to certifications, but certainly it will lead to something else. If certifications are found valid or reliable, not reliable, important and relevant, certainly people will pick up certifications. But I think there is a need to categorize what is the outcome that one is looking for. So for example, the person coming in from the campus and wanting to go for a placement to a particular company, his outcome expectation is different. So I think there is a need to categorize this and then look at it. So I thank all the panel members for their valuable insights coming from the very diverse experiences that they are from. And thanks to all the members. I think there's quite a bit of future. We need to build on it as all the panel members agreed, and we need to be patient about it. Thank you very much.